Okay, in this video we're going to work our way through a series of 20 Python challenges to help with the IGCSE Python programming. Now, before we get started with these challenges, I'm going to be using Python idle. So I've got it here down at the bottom on my Mac, and I'll show you how I set that up in my screen. It's exactly the same on Mac or PC. It doesn't matter what operating system you're using. So we're going to be using that to solve these problems. The Python challenges, I'm going to go through 20 different challenges. This video is just going to have the first 5, and I'm always going to go back to and reference the IGCSE Pseudocode. So the IGCSE Pseudocode is essentially a way to write a program without knowing programming language. It's writing a program in normal everyday English, and so that you can work out the logic and you can work out how the actual program works without needing to know Python and be a Python champion. All you need to know is the logic, the way that it works, right? So that's the idea of pseudocode. So what I'm going to do is we're going to look at the challenge. I'm going to open Python. I'm going to try and write the pseudocode first, so the simple English logic way that we would work something out first, and then I'll write the Python underneath, and we can go through and run the challenge. Now, the best thing to do would be for you to try and do these challenges by yourself first, and then if you get stuck, you go to the video and then you check the video and see how they work. All right, so that's the best concept to do this. It's best for you to try first, see if you can problem solve. Then if you're stuck, come back to the video. But anyway, let's get started with this first one. So I go down to idle and I start idle. Now the way that I like to set the screen up is I like to split the screen into 2 halves. I put the main shell over on the left hand side, that's this section here, and this is where the program will run. I then go File, New File, and this is where I'm going to actually write my program, and I like to make this a bit smaller, and I put that over on the right hand side. So this side here will be where I write the program, this side here will where it'll run, right? And I'm just using idle. Now you might be using something else. You might be using PyCharm, or you might be using an online IDE or something like that different. It doesn't really matter. The idea is we're working on the how to write the code. Now, the very first thing I do in Python is I write a comment. Right now, a comment is a hash. So you can see here I've used the hash symbol and it's gone red. So this tells me that I'm writing a comment. Now I'm going to put my name first, and I'll put IGCSE Computer Science. And then normally I'll put the topic, right? So this first topic is actually inputs and outputs. Okay, so that's going to be our first topic. And I know that it's inputs and outputs because if we look at our first challenge, it says, write a program that asks the user to input their age and output your age is. Right, so it's an input-output question. It's a pretty simple one to start with, but it's a good place to start, so let's get to there. So I've put the heading inputs and outputs, and we're going to start doing this. Now, because I want to write this in pseudocode first, remember pseudocode is just normal common English language, I'm going to rewrite this program again in IGCSE pseudocode. So the first thing it says ask the user to input their age. So the key term here is input. Now the key terms in IGCSE are in capital letters. I'm also going to hash this first because I don't want it to be a program, I just want it to be pseudocode, right? So the first thing I'm going to write is input, and then the input we want, I'm going to put in inverted commas, and I'm just going to write, what is your age? Okay, now that's simple English. There's no programming language or anything there. That's just a simple input, what is your age? Then the program says output, your age is, followed by their age. Okay, so my next line has to be exactly that, output, and then inverted commas, your name is, and then we've got to put their name, whatever their name is. Now this is where it brings up the first bit of programming knowledge. How am I going to get their name? If their name is here, how am I going to get their age? Sorry, age, your age is. Okay, how am I going to get their age? So I'm asking them the question here, what is your age? But I'm not storing that information anywhere. I'm not keeping that little bit of information that they give me, which is their age. I'm not keeping that anywhere safe. So I need to somehow put that somewhere safe. And to do that, what we do is we put in what's called a variable. Now, the variable is like a box that you store a little piece of information in, and we store that information in the variable in that box so that later we can go back and get that. Now you can name your variable anything you like as long as it doesn't start with a number and there are 2 or 3 key words that you're not allowed to use. And you'll know those because if you ever write them, they'll come up orange, right? But in this situation, we can use anything else we want. So why don't we just use the word age and then we say equals. So we've created a box here called age. We're saying it's a single equal. It equals the input, which is asking the user, what is your age? So this is a variable, this is an input statement, and this is asking the user what their age is. So now on this next line, we're going to say output, your age is, so we're going to print on the screen, your age is, and then we need to print out what their age is. So we go back and we say, let's get what's in the box, which is the word age. So we could write it like that. Now that's pseudocode, and that would actually be the right sort of format for IGCSE pseudocode. The main functions are in capital letters, your variables are in lowercase, and that's a working program for pseudocode. But now we want to actually write it in Python. So to write it in Python, we actually use nearly the same structure that's written in here, and I'll just go through this. I'm going to create a variable called age. I'm going to use a single equal sign, and I'm going to say input in lowercase, not in uppercase. I'm going to put in a set of brackets, and inside those brackets, I'm going to put 2 inverted commas, and I'm going to ask, what is your age? Question mark, and I actually like to put a space after the question mark so the user has a little bit of space to write. They're going to start writing after that, so there's space. So here, it's similar to the pseudocode up the top, except it's actually written in the right way for Python, and it's nearly the same sentence, except for this set of brackets here. It's nearly exactly the same as the pseudocode. Now, the output is a little bit different. We don't use the word output in Python, we use the word print. So we could have print, and then we do a set of brackets, and we do inverted commas, and we write your age is. And then what we do is we put a comma, and then we put the variable, which is age. Okay, so age equals input, what is your age? And then we print your age is, close the inverted commas, comma, go and get what's in the variable. And that's it. That is challenge 1 complete. So if I go back to here and I read it and I have a look, it asks the user what their name is, it outputs your name is, followed by their age. Okay, now I've written that program, it looks to be okay. I want to add a couple of things. First thing I'm going to add, I'm going to put a comment in here, and comments are super helpful. You should have them in all your codes so that you can go back and remember what you've done. I'm going to call this challenge 1. And I'm also going to write here IGCSE pseudocode. So I know that that section there is the pseudocode. Then I'm going to go down here, I'm going to put another comment in here, and I'm going to write Python. So now I know this section up here is just pseudocode, this section here is Python. I hit File, Save, and I'm going to save this onto my desktop on my computer. I'm going to call it challenge 1, and then I'm just going to say save that to there, save, and then I'm going to run it. So I go up to the top here, I go run module, and you'll see now here's my program window, here's my actually running of the program. It says what is your age, and I'll put in 15, and I'll hit enter, and it says your age is 15. So that's it, challenge 1 complete, no big deal, that's pretty easy. We got through, we did an input and output. I'm going to go back to Python here, I'm going to close that window. I'm going to say File, New File. Again, I'm going to minimize it over to here, make it a little bit smaller. I'm going to do the same thing that I did last time. Nick May, I'm going to Python challenges. This is IGCSE. And this topic is going to be, let's have a look at challenge number 2. It says, write a program that asks to input 2 numbers. Now this is the important thing here, is 2 numbers, calculates the average and outputs the results, and it tells me to calculate the average of 2 numbers you need to add them up and then divide by 2. Okay, so we can do this. The only difference is we're not working with text this time, which is called a string. This time we're going to be working with numbers, which is called an integer. So let's go to here and let's put in integer. Right, so in my heading I've put in integer. I'm going to start with my pseudocode, and then I'm going to write my pseudocode, then I'll go down and I'll write my Python as well. So this is challenge 2, so I better put in the heading challenge 2 as well, just to keep it kind of consistent. Challenge 2. Right, so let's have a look at this code. Ask the user to input 2 numbers. So that means I'm going to have 2 input statements. So if I'm writing in pseudocode, let's put input. Oh, put my hash in the way at the start so we can see it. Input. Okay. Instead of inverted commas, please enter the first number. Okay. And I'll leave a space, so they've got space to do it. Let's go colon space. There we go. So I've got please enter the first number. All right, then there's obviously, let's do that again. I'm going to copy and paste because that's a quick way to do it. And this time we'll say please enter the second number. Okay, so now I've got the user inputting 2 numbers. Ask the user to input 2 numbers. Then calculate the average and output the result. Now it tells me to do the average, I add the 2 numbers together and I divide by 2. So I would go number 1 plus number 2 divided by, and remember this is the divided by sign here in Python, but we're only doing the pseudocode at the moment, so that should be okay like that. Now here's the problem. How does it know number 1 is this one up here and number 2 is this one here? This is where we go back to the first challenge. We have to put in a variable. And I'm going to call the variable number 1 equals input, please enter the first number. And then I'm going to put here number 2 equals input, please enter the second number. And so now I've got number 1 and number 2. Number 1 plus number 2 divided by 2. Now, you have to follow the normal maths rules. So how do I know that it's not going to do number 2 divided by 2 and then go back and do plus number 1? In order of operations, division comes before addition. So you can't do that. So what you would have to do is you'd have to put a bracket around this. So now you're saying add number 1 to number 2 and then divide the whole lot by 2. But what do you want to do with that? It says I want to output that result. So what we really want to do here is put in the word output in capital letters. So there's the pseudocode. So I've written the code in basic English here to get it all to work. Now we're going to do the same code in Python. And as before, the Python code is really similar to the pseudocode. I'm going to call my first variable number 1. I'm going to say equals. And I'm going to say input. And I'm going to say in here, please enter the first number. Colon, space, close inverted commas, close bracket, and then I'm going to do the same for number 2. So I'm just going to copy and paste that so it's a little bit quicker. And I'm going to change that to number 2. I'm going to change this to second. Right, now, one more thing that you need to know when you're doing Python. When we're doing Python, remember I said this time we're working with numbers. We're not working with a string, characters. And I said we were going to call this an integer. So an integer is a whole number, positive or negative. Okay, so I want this to be an integer. I want it to be a number because you can't really just add 2 symbols together. You want it to actually be a number that you can add 2 together. So to do that, what we do before the input statement, we write int, bracket, and then because we've got the first set of brackets there, we need to close the bracket at the other end. So we've got integer input, please enter the first number. Line 2, we do the same, int, bracket, please enter the second number. So now in our Python code, we've specifically said, enter a number, but it's got to be an integer. And that's going to be our first number. We call that number 1. Then we've got number 2. Now, all we have to do is do an output. Now, remember, an output in Python is print. So we could do print, and what we're going to do is go number 1 plus number 2. Oops, that was a multiplied by. But make sure you get those symbols right. Plus number 2, and we're going to do divided by 2. And as we did with the pseudocode, we need to make sure that number 1 and number 2 add together first. So I'm putting brackets around them first. So they're out. That'll happen first. Then we'll divide by 2, and we should get a number output at the end. We say File, Save As, and we're going to save this as Challenge 2. Challenge, 2. There we go. Save that to my desktop, and I should already see Challenge 1 saved down there. There it is, right? So I'm going to say bang, save Challenge 2. Now I'm going to run it. Run module. Please enter your first number. My first number is going to be 8. Please enter your second number. My second number is going to be 6, so that should give me an average of 7, right? There we go. Gave me an average of 7 right here. Okay, 7.0. Gave me the average of the two numbers together. Now I can run it again, right? Let's run it again. And I'll put in the number, I don't know, 15. Put in the number 12. The average is 13.5. Okay, so that's it. That's all we need to do for challenge 2. Now, you might be thinking, what happens if they put in something that's different? What happens if they put in a decimal? What happens if they put in a word or those sorts of things? That's not the challenge to deal with that. This is not asking you to deal with error messages and problems and those sorts of things. This challenge just basically says, add two numbers together and find the average, which is what we've done. We've completed that task. We've done it in pseudocode and we've done it in Python. So now we're just going to hit X, close that. Let's start it all over again. New file. Now, as you start to do this, what you'll find is you want to get faster and faster and faster. So I'm just going to open that last one we made, challenge 2, and I'm just going to copy that so that on my new file, I don't have to spend time doing all of that. So a new file, there we go. I just hit paste. And then all I really need to do is go through and change my challenge number to challenge 3 and change whatever that main heading is, integer. Let's change that to whatever this next one is. So let's have a look, see what it says. All right, challenge 3. Write a program that asks the user to input the width and height of a rectangle, calculates the area, so area equals height, width by height, so that's pretty easy. And it tells you down here, multiply the width by the height to find the area of a rectangle. So we know area equals that. Right, so I'm going to do this one pretty quickly. So this one, because it's integers again, it's working with whole numbers, multiplying them. Let's go through and do Python first, right? So pseudocode first. Okay, so my first line of pseudocode is going to be input. What is the width? Are we going first? What did they ask for? Yep, width and height. So what is the width? Now, because we've now done a couple of these challenges, we know that we have to have a variable at the start. So the variable's the box where we're going to store the input information in here. And because we just did that last one and we know that we want it to be a number, we could even put in integer. In our pseudocode, I'm writing the whole word integer, right? But in Python, we'll just put int. Okay, so the next thing we're going to get is our height. So let's just copy that, paste it again. Height. That's our variable name, integer. What is the height? Okay, so now we've got our two inputs. Now, again, for pseudocode, we want to do our output in capital letters. Remember, IGCSE pseudocode. And we're going to print, all we need to do is width multiplied by, multiply sign's a star, remember. In Python, it's a star, this hash, this little star thing there, that's multiplied. And that's it, we've done our pseudocode. So now let's do the Python. And we start off with, I'm actually going to just copy that code and just make a few little changes. Copy that, paste. Let's paste it again so we can do width equals. Now we're going to have int bracket, and then the word input in Python is lowercase, bracket, what is the width? And so that we're grammatically correct, we're going to have a question mark and a space, close it with two brackets, so we've finished the first one. What is the width? Now let's do the second one, int bracket input bracket What is the height? Right, question mark, space, close inverted commas, close those two. So that's it. So our inputs are both correct. Oh, I haven't done height. And then our output is just a simple print statement, bracket, width multiplied by height. Now, again, this is going to come up, and this is something that you could do. What units are you using? So are you using centimeters? Are you using millimeters? Are you using whatever? Because when you work out the area should be in centimeters squared or millimeters squared. So you should have something like, let's say we could put in here in centimeters, or what is the width? Yeah, in centimeters. Yeah, let's just put cm because it's quicker. In centimeters, like that. Let's just do that, and then we can put comma, inverted commas, centimeters squared, like that. So now you're actually answering correctly because area is a squared number, right? So if we run that, let's go file, save as, and we've got this challenge 3. Challenge 3 to the desktop, save, and we run it. Okay, what is the width in centimeters? It's going to be 10. What is the height? 12. 120 centimeters squared. So that gives us the correct answer, and we've bothered to do the squared bit. Now, you can make that argument. The question doesn't ask you to put in the right units at the end, doesn't ask you to do that. But if you're working out the area of something, then you should actually try and use the correct units, right? So that's it. Challenge 3 done, complete. We've worked on integers, and the integers are multiplying together, so that's good. Let's copy this section again. Command C, close that, new file. We're going to call this challenge number 4, paste that, change that to challenge number 4. Let's have a look and see what challenge 4 is. Challenge number 4 is, again, input numbers, right? Ask the user to input 2 numbers, divides the first number by the second number, and outputs the result. Divides the first number by the second number, right? So it's not divides the first number by the second number. Okay, so it's pretty easy. That's straightforward, right? Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go back to our recent files. I'm going to go to challenge number 3. I'm going to copy our pseudocode, and I'm going to copy our inputs here. And I'm going to go to this one, which is now our challenge number 4. I might even add the word divide, so we know, give it a bit more information. I'm going to paste all of that here, and this time we're going to go call this number 1 again. We'll call this one number 2, and our output is going to be number 1 divided by number 2. Number 1 and divided is just a backslash by number 2. Okay, take the space out. That's better. What is the first number? What is the second number? Okay, so now we've done the pseudocode. Input the first number as an integer, save it as number 1. Input the second number as an integer, save it as number 2. And then we're outputting number 1 divided by number 2, which it was the first number by the second number, output the results. Okay, so that's fine. And the output, we've got output. That's the pseudocode. So now we're going to do the same thing in Python. I'll just make those quick changes again. Number 1. This one's going to be number 2. What is the first number? Okay, what is the second number? Okay, done that. And then our output, again, our output, remember the word output in Python is print. So we're going to print number 1 divided by number 2. Okay, and if you make it a typo, you need to make sure you fix it. Right, number 1 divided by number 2. That's it. That's all it should be. We go Command S, file save. Oops, Command S to save. We're saving this to the desktop as challenge number 4. Challenge number 4, we're going to hit save. And then we're going to run it. Now, you can see I've lost my headings at the top here. Oh, there we go. They're back. Yeah, there we're back. Run module. What is the first number? I'm going to do the first number is 15 divided by the second number I'll do is 5. So my answer should be 3. There we go. There's my answer. First number divided by the second number. My answer equals 3. We have solved challenge number 4. And that was pretty easy, right? So, challenge number 4 done. Let's get to the next and the final one for this video, which is going to be challenge number 5. Let's see what this one says. Write a program that asks the user their name. So that's what we did in program number 1, essentially, except we asked their age. But in this one, we're going to ask their name. Ask what their favourite subject is using their name in the question. Respond to their answer by saying that you like that subject as well. So it's just saying I like that subject as well. It doesn't say I have to put the name of the subject in the answer. It just says I have to put the subject. Right, so let's go through and write this. Let's do this one from scratch. File, new program. Again, let's do a comment at the start. Nick May, IGCSE. We're going to call this name subject challenge. It was challenge number 5. And we're going to write the pseudocode. Okay, now what does it ask us to do? Asks the user to input their name. So let's just write that again in simple in English. Input, what is your name? Now remember, we want to store that information somewhere. So we're going to make a variable. We might as well call it name. Name equals input, what is your name? Oh, come on. So that's the first part. We've done line 1 of the pseudocode. Next, ask what their favourite subject is. Okay, so that's going to be exactly the same line pretty much. So let's just copy that, Command C, Command V. Let's call this variable called subject and say what is your favourite subject. Okay, so now we've got those 2 questions asked. Ask what their favourite subject is using their name in the question. Oh, okay, so let's put in here, in the question, we could put in something like this. Hello. And then we put a comma, space, the name of the variable, name, comma, space. So I need to explain this one. Here, we are asking an input statement here, and we're saying hello, and then actually using the person's name from the first question, and then we're saying, what is your favorite subject? Okay, now, there's going to be a few changes to this when we write Python, but in pseudocode, that works, right? We're going to input saying hello, the name of the person, what is your favorite subject? So we've answered the way that we're going to do that, and then respond to their answer by saying that you like that subject as well. Okay, so that could be, there's 2 ways you can interpret this. The easiest would be output, I like that subject too, right? Or here's a different option. You might want to put output, I like, comma, the name of the subject, comma, space, 2. So now you're actually saying the subject that they've said. So if they've said they like PE, I like PE too. If they've said they like computer science, you're I like computer science too. So this is the simple English way to write the program, the simple pseudocode way. This is not the actual programming way we'd write it. This is the pseudocode, and I think we've fulfilled everything here. They asked the username, asked them their subject with their name in the question, and we've responded by saying we like that subject. Right, now to write this in Python, this is going to be a little bit different. Let's put Python as a comment. Okay, Let's use our first line because our first line is nearly the same. So I'm just going to copy that and paste that down here. Variable. This is going to be input. We don't need the letter integer because we're using a string. We're using a whole set of characters put together. We're going to put a space after the name and then close that bracket. So we've done what is your name. Now, in the subject line, we've got an input, but at the moment, this input has three things. It has the first hello, it has the name, and then it has the question. Now, with an input statement, you can't have three separate things. You can only have one big thing, one big question. And to do that, instead of using the comma there, and instead of using the comma there, we could use a plus sign, which joins them all together and makes them one big question. So let me show you how we do that. Subject equals an input. We still want an input from the user, and we want to start with the hello section. So let's write hello in inverted commas. Now, normally we would say comma, name, comma, and then say something else to them. But because we can't have three things in the input, we don't use a comma, we use a plus, and that joins them together. Now, joining things together is called concatenation. So this concatenates the question, it joins the question together, and we can say, hello, Jim, what is your favorite subject? Question mark, space. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're just going to check that when we do this, that there's a space between that and a space between that, space between that. So we're going to have to run this program once to error check just to see that's right. Then we're going to do a simple output statement. Remember, output in Python is print, inverted commas, I like, and then we're going to put a comma. And this time we don't have to join them together because as a print statement, you can have three different things in a print statement. So we can use the commas. We don't need to use the plus to concatenate them. They can be three separate things. So we can do subject, comma, and then let's do the word to, meaning also. That's why it's double O. Right, let's save that. Command S, go to my desktop. I'm going to save that as challenge 5. I'm going to hit save, and I'm going to run this. Now, what we're going to look for is after I've input the name, did it come out as one long sentence, or are there spaces in between it? And then does this final thing work down here? So let's go run module. Okay, what is your name? Nick. Now, here we go. Here's the issue. See, it says, hello with no space, Nick, with no space, what is your favorite subject? So let's go through and fix this if we can go through and fix this, right? So go back to our code. We're going to go hello, and then we're going to put a space, and then we're going to have the name, and then let's actually put a comma after the name, and then a space. So inside the inverted commas here, I'm putting a comma, which will be the person's name, comma, what is your favorite subject? Okay, so I'm trying to fix a little bit of grammar in here as well. So hello, Nick, what is your favorite subject? So let's try and run that now. Command S to save it, run. Okay, what is your name? Nick. And it says, hello, Nick, comma, what is your favorite subject? So that's better. That's a much better way to do it. Now I'm going to write my favorite subject is computer science. And then I hit enter, and it says, I like computer science too. Okay, fantastic. We've finished all 5 challenges. Just putting a full stop on the end of that. We finished all 5 challenges. We'll go on to the next 5 challenges once you've completed these and you've got a good understanding of it. Now, you don't have to write the pseudocode when you do your programming, but it is best practice when you're learning for IGCSE because you get used to using pseudocode. When you get to the IGCSE exam, they will use pseudocode, right? So it's really good practice to use the pseudocode, get your head around it, understand how it all works, and then you can go through and write your Python programming if you need to write your program in Python. Right, that's the end of this video. I'll do the next 5 after you've had a chance to play with these. If you've done all of these and you found them quite easy, start going on and doing the next challenges yourself. Open the PDF and have a look at the PDF and start doing these challenges.